All right, we're going to do this interview for Mr. Lehman. How are you? This is T.M. Stevens, a.k.a. Shaka Zulu. It's 8 a.m. in the morning, and we are now in Montreal, Canada. And this is for bass players only. But we'd like everyone to watch and see, and it's been my pleasure to do this with you all. And now I'm in my hotel room in Montreal as we have a huge festival. I've done this for so many years, and now, from the Pretenders to Miles Davis to James Brown to everyone that I've done this with, Joe Cocker, now I'm playing a festival with the incredible Bootsy Collins. And that's an interesting thing to have the basses playing together because it becomes thunder funk. Stay tuned. We will go into detail and show you where the one is. Welcome to my world, thunder funk. There's several questions people ask me, and Mr. John Lieben said, what is my musical background and upbringing? The truth of the matter, I was in college and I was in high school, and when I did get to college, I majored in medical lab technology. And the professor, his name is Professor Heller, and we're still, by the way, the best of friends. He said to me, it appears that you are going towards music, because back then we had those cassette Sony machines and I had my earplugs in and I was in biology. And I'm sitting there as he's talking about microbiology, and I'm like doing this, listening to Purple Haze in my earphones. And he tapped me on the head and he went, sir, can you see me in my office after class? Well, of course, as a student gets tapped on the head by the teacher, you think, I'm in trouble. Probably going to stay after school. Went to his office and he said, you know, I'm not here to shout you down or force you or push you into something you don't want to do, but apparently you seem to be leaning towards music. And he says, my suggestion would be for you to take a leave of absence from college. I almost made it to my last year, by the way. And he said, take a leave of absence, try the music, and the worst thing that can happen is it doesn't happen. And you can come back to school and get your degree and be in the hospital and so forth. So I left. And since then, I have been on the road in the music, and thank God that I followed my dreams, because now they're following me. Who would have dreamt that I'd be sitting here right now with the P-Funk band members, and I just followed my dreams, and so can you. So my musical upbringing, I didn't go to the great institutes or Berkeley or anything like that. I went to the Institute of Sit on the Box outside of a club in Harlem. I was in the Boy Scouts, the cadets. And the scoutmaster was, he's a guitar player. And he said, would you like to learn how to play guitar? And I said, whoa, why not? Let's try. You know, I never said no. And as I went over to his house in Harlem, because I lived in the Bronx, and I started playing this guitar. But I noticed I kept listening to the bass. I don't know why. I would listen, you know, it was James Brown. He was doing I Can't Stand It. Can't stand it. Down on it. And I was listening to what the bass did. And on Cold Sweat, and I'm going, whoa, what is this? So I started playing bass on the guitar. Then I got hooked. That was it. So I go after the meetings, and I would go to the clubs in Harlem at that time. Small's Paradise, a lot of places. And I would sit on a milk crate outside the club, unaware of the dangers around me, by the way. You know, anybody could have came and bopped me on the head sitting out there. But I'd sit and listen to the music through the doors. And then when the band took a break, because back then they had to do several sets a night, you know, 3, 4, 5 sets, they'd come outside and take a break, have a smoke, whatever, and I would be in their face. How did you do that? What was that? And that was my school. It was called the School of the Milk Crate, on a box outside in Harlem with an underage kid out there in the middle of the night, and my mother would, of course, bop me on the head for sitting out there putting myself into danger. I did this for a few years. Then I got my own bass. And that's how I started. I got a bass from somebody that was in Harlem that needed money. And it was, I think, $10, a real cheesy bass. And I just started plucking on this thing. And the rest is history. So I didn't choose the bass chose me. The question would be asked, why, T.M. Stevens, are you sitting on milk crates outside of a club? Why didn't you just go into the club and see the band play? That answer would be because they called me young blood back then. I was too young to go into the clubs. So the only way that I could hear the music is to sit outside. And I had to wait for the musicians to come out because I couldn't go in. You know, it's illegal to go in. So that's how I had my schooling. Now we have internet and you can see whatever, you know, T.M. Stevens, Billy Sheehan, all of us play. www.whateveryouwant.com. Back there we didn't have that. So I had to sit down there. Then I had to take that long train ride back from Harlem all the way to the Bronx. But to me, it's worth it, and I would do it all again for this honor and privilege of being a bass player. For bass players only, baby bubba. The question is being, how did I end up a bass player? I somewhat answered that by saying I didn't choose the bass chose me. It was something that was meant to be. It's in my DNA. I did not choose it. It chose me. In the defining moment, I was in high school. And in the Bronx, I lived right across the street from my high school. And I found myself, as I began to grow as a player, I started playing in what they call after-hour clubs back then. And those were those illegal clubs that shouldn't be open in the first place. And they would actually be open when the other clubs closed. And I would go and play with various bands. And as I got better and better, the people who attended those clubs going, "Ooh, young blood. You're starting to get that thing, that groove." And I can thank my mom, Dorothy Stevens. God bless her, man. She used to play 45 records. Some of you young folks are like, what's a 45 record? It's made out of vinyl. And they have big albums, which a lot of you know about, but these were the tiny ones. And she'd be playing Marvin Gaye, James Brown, The Temptations, Four Tops. And I began to discover Led Zeppelin myself. And I'm listening to these records going, whoa, this is it. And I got caught. So I just started playing the bass, and that was it. And then I'd be in the clubs like 3 in the morning, and we'd be playing, and they'd close at 6. And I would come home, jump in the shower, and then go to school. And I'm sitting in the first class like, But I would play all night, and that was my schooling. That's how I played. And I didn't actually really define when I started to be a professional, but slowly it happened. It's inertia. As I started playing, more and more people go, "Oh, this kid can play," and they get me for this, get me for that. And my first big gig was when I played with Norman Connors. He's a drummer and known in the jazz world, and then from there it took over. And that's how I started.